With the launch of 10th edition, we are going to get a lot of new models. We're going to get some army refreshes. And in this video, I'm going to be picking my top 5 armies that I personally think deserve a range refresh. Also mixing that up with rumors that I've personally heard about armies that will be or potentially getting a range refresh through the whispers of the warp. So let's jump in and let's get waffling. Now let's jump in feet first into the deep end and let's talk about something that I've actually been talking about quite a lot for the past couple of weeks, months now, and that is the Dark Angels. Apparently around spring, the Dark Angels are getting a full range refresh. That is when their codex is going to be coming out. It really does make sense that this will be one of the first big Space Marine range refreshes, because if you look at it from a lore standpoint, they've just received their Primarch back. There's a lot of lore, a lot of new big changes now around the Dark Angel chapter as a whole. We have these new Risen Marines that have returned with the Lion. They are basically, well, they were fallen in the eyes of the Dark Angel, but the Lion has redeemed them, hence the name the Risen. I don't know how these are going to interact with the Dark Angel chapter itself. We have just had a brand new Azrael model, of course, but along with that, I have heard stuff like a brand new Belial. What happened to him in the lore when he actually fought an Angron? He was taken off the battlefield in like a mortally wounded state, so maybe it's the only way to save him is to cross the Rubicon Primaris, and there we have a brand new Belial model, a part of that. You can go in any direction, I think, with the Dark Angel range refresh. If you kind of look at the Black Templar range refresh and then trying to put that on the Dark Angels, I think we'll probably see maybe some new Deathwing in Terminator, because again, the new Terminator scale is now out and it's out in the wild. I'm sure everyone's painting their stuff. Maybe like an Inner Circle upgrade kit, like the Black Templar's got like upgrade kits, something similar to like, was it Sword Brethren, something like that. Samael, maybe you can do something with him, you know, the Raven Wing master on his, you know, brand new hover bike, Raven Wing themselves, maybe upgrade kits for the actual Outrider squads that we already have out there. Just really something to give the Dark Angels a little bit more personality to their range. Again, with the whispers that I'm hearing, I am more or less convinced, and 99.9% convinced, that if you're a Dark Angel player in 10th edition, you're going to be having an amazing time in terms of getting new models for that chapter. Now, from the Dark Angels, let's jump over to the Dark Eldar, or the Jakara, if you really want to be official with a GW name. I personally think that this is the next Xenos armor that really needs as much attention as possible given to it. I know a fair few Dark Eldar players, and they are not best pleased with the amount of love that they've received recently from Games Workshop. And when I say love, barely nothing. Nothing at all. If you actually go over to the Games Workshop page right now and you look at the Dark Eldar page, I think they only have 23 models for sale, but more than like 60% of those models you can't buy anymore. It's like temporary out of stock, temporary not stocked anymore, just non-existent on the GW website. So hopefully, fingers crossed, that they actually do receive some love this edition. If there's one big thing I would love the Dark Eldar to get, is Vet. Vet is an integral part of the Dark Eldar. He's been mentioned in some new of the recent publications from Black Library, and I think now when everyone is getting like a type of centerpiece model for their armor, like Primarchs, you know, the brand new Abaddon model, the Norn Emissary that's about to come out for the Tyranids, I think Vet would be one of those type of models that would absolutely suit the Dark Eldar, because not only is he a badass in the lore, I think his model would be absolutely kick-ass on the tabletop as well. So Games Workshop, if you're listening, I'm sure you are, if you are listening, then give the Dark Eldar players what they want and give them a awesome little range refresh so they can bring more disgusting stuff on the tabletop. Now, moving from one twisted faction to an even more twisted faction, in my opinion, and that is the Emperor's Children. I am 99.9% convinced that this is going to be coming out during 10th edition. I'm already starting to hear the whispers from the warp about the Emperor's Children, that the range is fully done. It's just a matter of when rather than if now, coming from Games Workshop. I do think it's going to be towards the back end of 10th edition, so maybe like 2 to 3 years away, depending on when they want to release it. But in terms of new models, Fulgrim is definitely a given. You're probably going to have Lucius the Eternal as a HQ model. Eidolon, I keep mentioning Eidolon. Eidolon's the de facto leader of the Emperor's Children now, because Fulgrim's doing Fulgrim things on his planet. Lucius the Eternal's just in it for himself and his lust and whatever he wants to do. So everyone's rallying around Eidolon because he's the one who's taking the fights to the Imperium or other Xenos forces. That's probably until Fulgrim does return fuller and like, you know, Snake Boy's back and everyone just goes to his banner, which I'm sure will leave Eidolon very, very salty. In terms of other units, Noise Marines are definitely a go. Like, you can't have Emperor's Children without Noise Marines. I really hope they do some like upgrade kits for like Chaos Terminators and maybe just like the normal Chaos Space Marines, so it can add more Slaaneshi parts to it. Maybe like, you know, skin and weird crab claws, bull heads and stuff, horns, all that weird stuff that you associate with Slaanesh, just so when you deploy that army on the battlefield, it looks like a Slaaneshi army. It doesn't just look like a different coloured Chaos Space Marine army with some spikes here and there. It actually appeals to the Slaanesh god, and it makes it look the rule of cool on the battlefield. But yes, definitely Emperor's Children are a goal for me. That's my opinion on that matter. Now, bouncing back to another Xenos faction, which I'd love to see done, and this is the Tau Empire. Now, for me as a person, I'm not really a fan of the Tau in terms of like the blue faces, the blue boys, but I tell you what I'm a huge fan of, and that is the Crew. The Crew are one of the most coolest Xenos factions that Games Workshop have personally ever made. I rate them just below Orcs, Orcs being my favourite, of course. Now, we've actually seen rumour images relating to a lot of Crew stuff, so I personally think during the 10th edition livelihood, right, let's say, Crew will receive a big faction upgrade to them, and justly and rightly so. Like, if you look at the Tau range right now, some of their battle suits I definitely think do need an upgrade, especially if you look at Farsight and how amazing they made that model look. But when you look at the like auxiliary forces attached to it, I think that's where you really need the love. So, you know, as I mentioned, the Crew are the main auxiliary forces, a part of the Tau. And to have them fully fleshed out, maybe like, you know, new, what's it called, Vespeds and stuff like that, maybe new ones of these, I think it could really go down well with the Tau faction and really just add another layer of flavor to the Tau. You know, it's not all about the mech suits and the gun drones and stuff like that. You can have these beaky monsters that are absolutely killer as well on the tabletop and look absolutely badass on the tabletop as well. So fingers crossed that does actually happen and the Tau do receive some love this edition. And my final top pick, because I've just decided to do a top 5, is a faction that I absolutely love. This is probably one of my favorite Space Marine factions, like Imperial Fists and all the Sons of Dawn together, and then it's this Space Marine faction, and that is the Grey Knights. The Grey Knights are one of the most badass factions in the galaxy. They are literal demon hunters, and with the rift that's happened, literally splitting the galaxy in half, this is their day. This is where they come out and like, we are the ones to repair this rift. We are beating back the demons. We are here. We are doing the Emperor's orders. Sadly, we haven't really seen that in terms of tabletop models. Yes, we've had a Castle and Crow, we've had a Voldus model that came out with a Triumphant, but beside that, we've really got nothing. And now when you look at the new Terminator models and you look at basically the new scale of like Primaris Marines, the Grey Knights really feel kind of small on the tabletop. I actually put a Grey Knight Terminator next to my Terminator when my friend came round a couple of weeks ago, and the Grey Knight Terminator just looked like bringing your child to work day. So the big thing I would hope Games Workshop were to do is just scale that range up. Like, of course, I want new units, and I'm sure there's Grey Knight players here who would suggest new units. For me, straight away is like Kaldor Drago, get a brand new model. This is the perfect time for Kaldor Drago to start, I don't know, dancing about the Great Rift and just start purging world after world after world, because he's literally attached to the warp and the warp's spewing out across the galaxy. So we need more Khaldor Drago, and that should be represented like in a model. We've already got the Castellan Crow one, which is another main character, but maybe, captains and stuff like that, librarians, chaplains. We are getting a brand new Terminator chaplain in Terminator armor, which maybe you can turn into a Grey Knight. Again, a Grey Knight upgrade kit for Terminators. There we go. Maybe I've just sold it for you, Games Workshop, right? You can turn like these Terminators into Grey Knights somehow and give them that badass type of look. Maybe to some other factions, maybe a centerpiece model, maybe more baby carriers, maybe a redesigned baby carrier, maybe repulsors for Grey Knights on stuff like that, and, upgrade kits for them. You really just have unlimited things you can do with the Grey Knights, and they deserve all the love that they should get, because they are one of the OG factions. I think they're one of the most popular factions as well. Like, every Space Marine player knows what the Grey Knights are and how just badass they are on the battlefield, but we just don't have the models that show the love for them. And it's insane, because Space Marines sell fantastically well with Games Workshop. So if you were to do a Grey Knight range refresh, I'm telling you right now, it's like GW printing money. You need to put that like that Scarface meme, push it to the limit. Ah! That's what you need, because it is literally just free money. It's free real estate if you start making Grey Knights. And that's me. That's my top 5. Do you know what I'd love from you in the comment section, if you're still watching the video at this point? In the comment section, what is your top 5 range refreshes? What do you want to see? Put it for like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, even though mine have been random. Just like, what do you think deserves the love the most to the least amount, and what do you want to see get a range refresh during 10th edition? You can even add new armies there, like new races, if you really want to go out there and stuff like that. I just pick the races that are already in the game, because, I just don't want more bloat added to the game until they start giving other factions, which are already there, the love that they deserve. Anyway, enough waffling from me. Thank you for coming. Thank you for watching. As always, if you've got any thoughts, feedback, anything like that, post it down below, and we'll have a nice little chin wag down there, as we always do. See ya, have a great day, and bye-bye.